What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. So it is right at about 12 o'clock, almost just getting into the afternoon time. Hope y'all had a fantastic weekend. So, welcome to the very first episode, if you want to call it, of Ask a PT. So, what I want, and forever, that means that whoever is the first viewer, you'll be the very first viewer on the very first episode of Ask a PT. So, what I want to do is actually send y'all a little gift that I'm working on. I'm actually working on writing an ebook. So, comment below first, and I will send that. I'll message you directly and get that over to you as a thank you for watching. So let's get into it. What I want to do today, the big question is to stretch or not to stretch, the age-old question. So the way this will work probably every week is what I'll do is I'll go through some of the research on it. We'll look at that. That's not the end-all be-all, because we know that with research it's very patient dependent. It can not work for a patient or it can work for a patient. So I'll go through a bunch of the main research that has had the most validity and is not flawed to their liking, most likely. And then I'll go over my opinion on it, okay? So, to stretch or not to stretch? That is the question. Let me show you what I found here. And this is actually consistent with what I've learned and what I've known as a physical therapist. So this first one is the current concepts. And what the current concepts are is that's a term we use in physical therapy too. It's a compilation of all the latest research that they've gone through. So this went through, I think it was from 1999 until 2010, and it was published in 2012. So pretty much as much research as you can do, right? It's kind of ad nauseum, like beating a dead horse over and over, You can only do so much. So it went through all the research on stretching, and it came up with the recommendations for what generally they recommend. So this one, it says, the benefits of stretching seems to be individual to the population studied. Several factors must be considered when making recommendations. To increase range of motions, all types of stretching are effective, which is actually an awesome thing, right? So that means you don't have to stick to just dynamic or just static, just ballistic, which is terrible anyway. We know we don't want to do that ballistic motion. But if you don't like static stretching and think it's boring like I do, then do a dynamic warm-up. That'll actually help range of motion. Okay, so that's number one. That's a good thing. To avoid decrease in strength and performance that may occur in athletes due to static stretching before a competition or activity, dynamic stretching is recommended for warm-up. Okay, so this means if you're in competition, if you're a power lifter, if you're looking to get into competition lifting, you don't want to just sit there and stretch the crap out of your hamstring before you go do a squat or a deadlift, right? It's actually more likely to injure it. Or if you're a sprinter, don't sit there and just stretch the crap out of your hamstring before you go and sprint. You're probably going to end up decreasing your performance and doing worse. Hey, what's up, guys? For who's ever watching, if you're just tuning in, the very first viewer on this episode, just comment below first, and I'll send y'all a free ebook that I'm working on for being one of the first viewers. So just comment that below, and I'll send it over to you guys. I'll get your contact information. So to avoid decrease in performance, you definitely want to do more dynamic activities, right? So I always tell my clients, if you're going to be running a sprint, then warm up first, then go for a jog first, and then do the activity. And that'll decrease your risk of injury. So it goes on to say, older adults over 65 should incorporate static stretching into an exercise program. So, as you get older, you age, your muscles become less pliable. They don't get as much nutrients, they don't get as much water into them, so we have to keep them loose and limber to decrease the risk of falls in the elderly population, right? So and I recommend for my clients, the longer stretching, the better, the more comfortable it is, generally up to 60 seconds, and then kind of go down from there, right? But if you're a dancer, for instance, and range of motion is mainly your main thing, you want to do more static stretching, because you're actually increasing the range of motion, increasing the length of those muscles to be able to stretch farther like you need to do. So at that point, static stretching is better to do, okay? This article was the current concepts article. There was another one, a meta-analysis, which is a compilation of all the latest research, all the best studies, and this one was over 150 studies. And it wasn't included in the current concepts because it came out at the same time period and they just missed it. But this one I wanted to go over was also a similar finding in that it said muscle performance was actually decreased by static stretching. So again, and that verifies what I was just talking about, Again, if you're looking for if you're looking for gains, then you don't want to just static stretch, because that'll actually decrease your performance in the gym, or if you're doing a competition, it'll decrease your performance in that competition. So in particular, what is recommended is stretching less than 45 seconds. I went stretching less than 45 seconds just for static stretching. They recommended 15 to 30 seconds, and then incorporate dynamic warm-up, so running, leg lifts, whatever that dynamic warm-up is for you, make it specific to your activity, right? So if you're sprinting, do a light jog before. If you're going to do bench press, do some push-ups before. If you're going to do squats, do unweighted squats to just warm up and get the muscles, the blood flow, and then go into it from there, if that makes sense. So, and by the way, just comment below with any questions or anything y'all have. If anything doesn't make sense or you need me to clarify, just comment below. I'll be happy to clarify for you. So this one, like I said, recommended a shorter duration of stretching, and I don't like static stretching anyway, so I would just not do static stretching and just go straight into the dynamic warm-up from there, if that makes sense. And then, so that was the main research on it. So again, one, if you're going to do it, just to kind of simplify everything we've talked about here, those were the biggest articles, the biggest meta-analysis, a compilation of all the research. If you're going to do static stretching, do it for more range of motion. So if you're a dancer, you need that more range of motion in your legs and your hammies and your back, then yes, you do need to do full range of motion stretching. But just know that stretching alone won't decrease your risk of injury, right? So decreasing the risk of injury is more likely going to be with a dynamic warm-up. So again, that's jogging, that's walking, that's if you're doing before a big max out day on bench, on squat, on deadlift, do light activities of each one of those with just body weight, just to get the blood flow to decrease that risk of injury. If you're an older adult, you definitely need to put in a static stretching program into your routine. And for me, obviously we're not the greatest at it, nobody is. It's hard to just sit down and stretch, but make it a routine every morning. Just sit down and do it, 4 or 5 minutes for all the body groups. I tend to recommend to my clients holding it up to 60 seconds if you're going to do a static stretch, because that's when you get more range of motion. That's when the muscles stretch out a little bit more. Again, that's not for decreasing injury, but that's for increasing range of motion. Okay, and they recommend that for older adults. Longer, it shouldn't be painful. I don't want you pushing through pain. That's always going to be worse. I want you to make it a slight discomfort. Typical hamstring stretch is a little bit of discomfort, but not too bad. It should be tolerable. And then do that throughout the day. If you're sitting at work or whatever and it just gets uncomfortable, light stretches, maybe bending forward, get that back going, get it nice and loosened up. Same thing with the hamstrings. All people just bend forward, loosen them up, get up, walk around. But as far as a warm up for static stretching, that's really what you need to look at. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, feel free to let me know. But that's what I want to do every week, is just go through one of those topics and then kind of answer y'all's questions, provide y'all with knowledge. So what I want these videos to be is kind of teaching y'all how to think, not necessarily specific exercises. I can absolutely provide those if you'd like me to, but I think it's usually more valuable with my clients if I teach them how to think instead of the specific thing, because then I give them the tools. It's that phrase that I always botch. It's if you show a man to fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, right? So if I can teach you all these concepts, it's going to help you in the long run. So I want you to think about the next time you go to work out, next time you're going to PR on bench, don't just sit there and stretch the crap out of your pec beforehand. That's not going to help, and it can actually make it more likely to injure it. I want you to do a light warm-up on bench without any weight, just getting the technique down, and then go into it. Always go into the workout saying, how am I going to make this less likely to hurt myself? How am I going to make this less likely to be painful? And then modify it to your specific program. Okay? So let me know. Hey guys, for those who are watching, comment below if you want to receive a free ebook that I'm writing. Just comment first down there, and whoever gets to it first, I'll directly message you and send y'all a free ebook on a special little something that I'm writing. It'll help y'all out. So, but yeah, think about how you're gonna get into those ways to not injure yourself during your workout. Implement a dynamic warm up usually. Hey Lisa, nice to meet you. Good to see you. I'll send you over that ebook. I'll message you directly. Thanks for watching. But yeah, think about in your warm up just to, like, again, dynamic stretching normally, and then static stretching if you're looking to really increase range of motion. Like if you're a dancer, you really need that range of motion. About a minute, a few times a day. So stay tuned for next week. Next week on my live, I'm going to be answering the age-old question, to foam roll or not to foam roll. That is the question. And if you have any specific things that y'all want answered, hey Jessica, how are you doing? Hope everything's well with you. If y'all want a specific question answered, definitely message below, because I want to be able to help y'all. Help me help you in the age-old ways of Jerry Maguire. So definitely message me what y'all want answered, and I'll be happy to do that every week. I'll get to it as I go. But yeah, guys, make it an awesome day. Happy Monday, guys. Go kill it. I'll see y'all.